这种天象攻击是神的手段。
请靠神，天魔教难辞其咎。
这恰恰是有史以来最妙的时机。
眼看只会是下一个大虚。
Qinmu issued a sect master's decree: assist the emperor in disaster relief, disperse the dark clouds, head south and save the crops, save as many people as you can. A protector asked if the emperor grants us official posts, what then? Accept them, Qinmu replied. The Yankang nation is also the heavenly saint sect. He lifted his gaze to the dark clouds overhead. Some people are still arguing over demonic Tao or orthodox Tao, while forgetting that the common people are dying. Divine art practitioners are used to standing high above others, asking them to bow their heads for mortals. They are not used to that. He gave a faint smile. A year of disaster breeds chaos. Be careful. Some will take this opportunity to stir unrest. Dutian Devil King. The Devil King sneered. This is the method of a god. A celestial phenomenon attack. It's merely a warning. Qinmu fell silent. Just a warning. A single warning could freeze millions to death. He thought of the great ruins. He remembered those abandoned beneath the decrees of gods and devils. His voice turned cold. If gods and devils do not die, bandits will never cease. Above the clouds, the national preceptor of the Yankang nation stood suspended in mid-air, gazing at the dark clouds blanketing the entire realm. Beside him stood his wife, once a palace maid. She asked softly, "You are not returning, because you believe the emperor can handle this." The national preceptor smiled. Even if he cannot, someone else will help him. I am not needed. This snowstorm, some call it heavenly punishment. Some call it a warning. Some call it the great Tao. But to the common people, it is only winter, and they are freezing to death. On the road back to the great ruins, Qinmu's Tao vessel stopped at Fen Prefecture. He and Hu Linga disembarked to purchase New Year goods filling the hold. Fen Prefecture was still relatively stable. The prefect was gathering divine art practitioners, forging spirit weapons, and flying into the sky to disperse the dark clouds. In some places, sunlight had already broken through. The ice had begun to melt, yet it felt even colder. Fen Prefecture produced strong liquor. The locals drank to fight the cold, yet many still climbed the mountains to chop firewood for warmth. Prices soared. After calculating the accounts, Hu Linga whispered, "Young master, prices have doubled." Qinmu paused. "It's come sooner than I expected." He shook his head. Stabilizing prices is the responsibility of the Ministry of Revenue. As long as the clouds disperse and the imperial court provides timely relief, the north will not descend into chaos. I only fear that some will deliberately incite unrest. Lai Prefecture. Prices rose again. Merchants hoarded goods waiting to sell at higher prices. The assistant prefect of Lai Prefecture acted ruthlessly. In troubled times, harsh laws prevail. Quite a few merchants were beheaded in the streets. Jing Prefecture, edge of the great ruins. The dark clouds were like torn paper sunlight piercing through ragged holes. But this place was desolate. Signs of disorder had already appeared. Mountain bandits roamed in groups. Along the roads lay those frozen to death, leaning against extinguished campfires. Refugee caravans trudged silently across frozen rivers, bundled from head to toe, not a word spoken. Some fell behind and squatted to warm themselves. Once they sat down, they never rose again. Qinmu noticed several young people within the refugee group using spells to assist the migration. He halted the vessel. They were disciples of the Heavenly Saint sect. "Tell them not to go any farther," Qinmu said. "Everywhere else is frozen." One disciple removed his mask, his face dark red from the cold. "Sect master, they won't listen. To stop is despair. To keep walking, there is still hope." Qinmu fell silent. He unloaded part of the warming supplies and handed them over. "Demons and spirits will also come out to hunt in this cold. Be careful." Then the vessel took flight again. Colder than expected. The farther west they traveled, the more barren it became. More corpses, thicker clouds. Icicles hung from the Tao vessel, forcing them to stop frequently to break the ice. Medicinal stones were consumed rapidly. Hu Linga sat by the alchemy cauldrons, constantly feeding in medicinal stones. Qinmu transformed his vital qi into vermilion bird essence flames, blazing around him to resist the cold. But this cold Cut to the bone. The demon race appears. Suddenly flames rolled out from the clouds. A gigantic serpent spewing fire tore through the mist. Standing atop its head, a sinister man sneered. I clearly saw that brat's vessel. Where did it go? Within a swarm of insects, a woman laughed lightly. Release the insects. Countless golden bugs scattered. One discovered the Dao vessel. Qinmu stabbed forward with a sword finger. It did not die. Instead, it expanded into a monstrous creature over a Jianglong. The Xiaobao sword flew out. One strike. Split in two. The Heavenly Saint Sect Master is here. The clouds behind them turned crimson. Linger. Activate all 3 cauldrons. Boom. Flames slammed into the stern. The vessel rocked violently, nearly falling. The bronze beast beneath the hull spewed fire furiously. Speed surged. They burst through the clouds. Cold. The freezing wind lashed against them. Even Qinmu's vermilion bird essence began to stiffen. Hulinga shouted, Young Master, we're running low on medicinal stones. Only half a basket remained. Not enough to reach the great ruins. At that moment, bang! Dozens of flying swords pierced into the cabin. A sword ring spun in the air. Per sword form, Qinma slashed. The sword ring shattered. Broken blades rained down. In the distance, a young scholar sprinted across the clouds. Sect Master, Qin of the Heavenly Saint Sect. Your identity has been exposed. Many fellow Taoists are waiting ahead. The Xiaobao sword shot out again. Entwining sword form. In an instant, the scholar was stripped bare. He retreated in shock. What exquisite swordsmanship! The sword returned. Before Qinmu could breathe, Amitabha, a Buddhist chant echoed from above. Blinding sunlight. Within that radiance, a golden Buddha descended. Diamond invincible. Qinmu's spiral spear formation shot upward. But the sword grew heavy. Overwhelming pressure crushed down. His bones creaked. The Dao vessel groaned. It was forced downward into the clouds. The battle had only just begun. This monk is a master. Qinma groaned. The pressure from above pressed down like an entire mountain collapsing onto the Dao vessel. His body trembled violently. In an instant, he transformed into the Huoying Star Lord, former bull-headed humanoid feet, stepping upon twin dragons. The hegemonic body 3 cauldrons technique circulated according to the Huoying Fire Ape True technique. His cultivation surged. Boom! He forcefully withstood the crushing pressure. At his brow, the 3rd divine bull eye opened. A beam of fire shot straight into the sky. A muffled explosion echoed overhead. The blazing sun behind the Buddha's head was pierced through. The radiant disk shattered. The Buddha image dissolved. Only a young monk remained tall and powerfully built, holding a 9-ringed monk staff. But one of his legs was drenched in blood. He had used Diamond Invincible to forcibly withstand Qinmu's spiral spear formation. The strike was blocked, but not the killing force. Impressive. The monk stood on one leg upon the clouds, eyes gleaming sharply. Pursuit across the sea of clouds. With every step he took, a white lotus bloomed beneath his foot. The lotus served as footing. His movements were swift as wind. Even injured, his speed was astonishing. Qinmu glanced back. His heart sank. Long Qiaonan Qiuyue 7 Stars Realm. The scholar Lan Yu caught the Xiaobao sword barehanded without injury. And this monk, his body so tough that the spiral spear formation only tore flesh from one leg. Had Qinmu failed to break the great sun behind his head, the Dao vessel would have already been forced down. These people, at the very least, were Peak 6 Harmony's realm. Linger. Increase speed. The alchemy cauldrons roared. The Dao vessel accelerated. The distance gradually widened. The monk stopped pursuing, laughing loudly from the clouds. What a fine vessel. But Qinmu did not relax. They were not afraid of him escaping, which meant someone was waiting ahead. Medicinal stones running out. After flying some distance, the vessel slowed again. Medicinal stones were nearly exhausted. If they continued full power, they would not reach the great ruins. Qinmu dispersed the Huoying Star Lord form and stood at the prow gazing ahead. The sea of clouds stretched endlessly. Then, a dozen li ahead, multicolored lights spun and refracted brilliantly. As the vessel drew near, it was not a rainbow, but enormous pillars of ice, like massive ice swords embedded upright into the cloud sea, each one thick enough that over 10 people would be needed to embrace it. Not natural formations. They were rotating, reflecting sunlight, waiting. Qinmu's expression changed. He yanked the helm sharply. The Dao vessel tilted, nearly vertical, carving a dangerous arc along the edge of the ice swords. Linger, full power. From inside came her strained voice. Young master, we truly don't have enough medicinal stones. Qinmu did not answer. Suddenly, boom, every ice sword moved at once, as if countless giants had drawn their blades and slashed downward. The air screamed. The Dao vessel surged forward. It narrowly evaded the colossal descending strikes. Qinmu looked back. Within the forest of ice swords, a woman in blue robes, exquisitely beautiful, cold as ice itself. Her watery blue vital key formed over a dozen arms. With each gesture she made, an ice sword mirrored the motion. Fortunately, she can't catch up. The thought had barely formed. She accelerated, running while waving her arms. Crack. The bottom of the vessel collided with an ice sword newly rising from the cloud sea. The Dao vessel flipped violently in mid-air. Qimi nearly got thrown off. This is bad. Ahead, more and more ice swords erupted continuously. This was her battlefield. This woman is even stronger than that monk. Dutian Devil King makes a move. Dutian Devil King, get out here. Inside the cabin, the Devil King lazily stepped out. What do you want? Qinmu snarled. Do you want to kneel and lick boots again? If not, help. The Devil King sneered. I am the Dutian Lord. If you want me to save you, say please first. Veins bulged on Qinmu's forehead. Please. The Devil King immediately smirked. So you do bow your head one day? Seeing Qinmu's murderous gaze, he quickly grew serious. Demonic language resounded. All 8 arms rose. A massive black mirror appeared in the sky. Boom! A pillar of thick black light blasted into the sea of clouds. Ink spread outward. Within a radius of dozens of rolling demonic mist. The blue-robed woman was swallowed within. Inside the mist, she let out a soft cry. Stray thoughts erupted within her. The Lihentian sword art required a sword heart as clear as crystal. Now, her sword heart was stained black like ink. Desires and distractions surged wildly. The Devil King sighed. Give me half a day. I could make this ice beauty lick my boots. Counterattack. A Buddhist chant rang out. The 9-ringed monk staff spun violently. Golden rings radiated light. The demonic mist was dispersed. Just as the monk cleared the mist, a scorching body threw itself into his arms. It was Yue, her robes half open. The monk's expression changed. Senior Sister Yu, awaken. The Buddhist sound vibrated. Her demonic thoughts dispersed. Yu flushed red and hastily adjusted her robes. Shameful, he escaped. The monk said solemnly, with this monk here he cannot stir great waves. A heavenly net. Lan Yu arrived cupping his fists. The heavenly saint sect master faces more than just us. Fellow Taoists across the martial world have laid a heavenly net. He cannot escape. In the distance, sword light streaked across the sky. Yuanshan of the Yuangong sword sect. They gathered together. Yenshan's face was grim. My sword ring was destroyed. His vessel is made of profound iron. 1,000 strikes could not break it. Yu added, my Lihentian ice swords were shattered as well. An iron vessel, flying in the sky. They exchanged glances. Lan Yu's expression suddenly changed. Long Chaonan is coming. Leave quickly. Ahead, endless sea of clouds. Medicinal stones nearly gone. Behind, a heavenly net. Before, unknown enemies waiting. The heavenly saint sect master had truly fallen into a dead end. Qinmu shoved Yuanshan aside and immediately inspected the Dao vessel. One glance and his heart sank. The hull was riddled with holes from flying swords like a honeycomb. Had it not been made of profound iron, it would have shattered mid-air. The prow had also been torn open by a massive ice sword. When accelerating wind howled through the breach, increasing drag and greatly reducing speed. Give me half a day, I could repair it. He clenched his fist. But they won't give me half a day. At that moment, Hu Linga poked her head out. Young master, the bronze beast beneath the vessel, had its head cut off. Is it serious? It's fine, Qinmu replied calmly. Just a bit bumpy when landing. Bumpy? How bumpy? He paused. Why do you ask? We're out of medicinal stones. Her voice was crisp and straightforward. The vessel is falling. Didn't you notice? Qinmu looked down. Indeed, the vessel was still moving forward, but slowly descending into the sea of clouds. He made a decisive decision. Linga, wake that pig up. It's his turn to work. Duty and Devil King exploded in anger. Who are you calling a pig? Hulinga rolled her eyes. Not you. Young Master means Longban. Dragon Qilin slowly climbed up, grumbling. A few days ago, you still called me Longda. Qin Mu ignored him, swept the remaining supplies into the storage pouch, then looked at the Devil King. He tried stuffing one of the Devil King's legs into the pouch. It didn't fit. Just as he was about to dismantle him, "Stop! Channel your vital ki into the Taoti mouth." Qinma tried it. The Taoti inscription lit up. The pouch mouth expanded into a gigantic Taoti maw, swallowing the Devil King whole. So that's how it works. He tied it at his waist. Abandon ship. Go. Dragon Qilin generated fire clouds beneath his feet, lifting all three. Behind them, boom! The Dao vessel crashed into a mountain and exploded. 3 alchemy cauldrons detonated in succession. Profound iron and bronze fragments scattered everywhere. A forested mountainside was flattened. A black mushroom cloud rose. Hulinga swallowed. Young Master, you said it would only be a little bumpy. Chema nodded calmly. Longban Fatty, if you don't run faster, you'll be eaten before New Year. Dragon Qilin shuddered and bolted forward, fire clouds thickening beneath him. They hadn't run far. More than 10 octagonal mirrors suddenly rose from the surrounding mountain peaks. Above, below, left, right, front, back, completely surrounded. A streak of sword light shot from a mountaintop into one of the mirrors. Clang! The sword light was reflected into another mirror, then reflected again. In the blink of an eye, sword light wove into a net, denser and denser, tighter and tighter, a reflective sword formation. A chill ran down Qin Mu's spine. To break it, we must shatter the mirrors. He directed the Xiaobao sword to slash at one of them, but countless reflected sword lights rebounded at once, knocking the treasured blade out of the air and sending it tumbling down the mountain. The cultivator's realm is higher than mine. At least 6 harmonies realm, perhaps even 7 stars realm. The space dragon Qilin had to maneuver grew narrower and narrower. Just then, Dragon Qilin shook his head and let out a thunderous roar. The sound was like 10,000 bolts of heavenly lightning exploding at once. Boom! All the mirrors shattered simultaneously. The sword net vanished. From below the mountain came an astonished voice. This beast, truly formidable. Dragon Qilin bristled with rage. Beast. He opened his mouth and spat fire. The mountaintop exploded. The sword cultivator merged with his sword as one shot upward to evade. But the fiery shockwave struck violently, separating him from his sword and sending him tumbling into the forest. He was not dead. He again used a mirror to reflect sword light, sweeping it horizontally. Dragon Qilin's body swelled, revealing his true form, over 40 zhang long. His massive tail swept across. The sword light shattered. What an enormous beast! The sword cultivator cried out. Furious beyond measure, Dragon Qilin unleashed a blazing pillar of fire. The layers of cloud were torn apart. A scream echoed in mid-air. Sunlight poured down. The situation turns. Longban is amazing. Hulinga cheered. But Qin Mu did not smile. He looked at the torn clouds above. Coldly he said, "They're only probing. Long Qiaonan Yue 7 stars realm. The monk and the scholar peak 6 harmonies realm. They were not in a hurry to kill. They wanted to know whether the heavenly saint sect master had a protector at his side." Qin Mu had deliberately remained in flight, avoiding decisive battle. As long as the hidden experts could not be certain, he still had a chance to enter the great ruins. But now, Dragon Qilin had revealed his strength. The hidden masters would certainly make their move. Less than 1,000 Li remains. Qinma spoke gravely. The closer to the great ruins, the safer we are. Dragon Qilin lowered his head and ran. Over 100 Li passed. No pursuit appeared. Suddenly, Qin Mu said, "Stop. Descend into the mountains." Dragon Qilin landed in a snow-covered valley. Desolate, uninhabited. But earlier, Qin Mu had used azure whistle lightning conduction and seen overwhelming resentment here. He burned away the snow. Beneath the ice, bones everywhere. An ancient battlefield. Qin Mu's gaze turned cold. "If they insist on killing me, then I will choose the battlefield." He waved his hand. Countless white bones rose into the air. They piled into 4 bone altars. He retrieved 4 duty and devil god statues from the storage pouch, placed them atop the altars, took out the Hongshan sect talisman treasure, and began casting. Commanding ghosts and spirits talisman. From inside the toady pouch, Duty and Devil King roared, "Summon my true body. I'll slaughter them all." Chinmu did not answer. Demonic language echoed. Runes gradually lit up across the first statue. He was using himself as a bridge connecting to a devil god from another world. Just then, an aged voice sounded, "Hiding here to summon demons. And you still claim you are not a demonic sect?" An old Taoist stepped forward, a whisk in hand, a single sword at his back. Cold wind swept across the bones. The true battle had begun. Chinmu cleared all distractions from his mind. Only one thought remained: summon the demon. Suddenly, a pillar of bloodlight shot into the sky, staining the snowy valley red as if drenched in blood. The column rose 100 zhang high. Lightning coiled around it. Crack, crack. Bolts shot in all directions, striking the cliff walls. Snow melted. Rock liquefied. Molten lava flowed like blood. Lightning wove into a net. Demonic power from another world thundered down, pouring into the statue atop the altar. The statue cracked, swelled. Its aura grew increasingly terrifying. From the Taoti pouch came Duty and Devil King's urgent, furious voice. "Boy, this time you're summoning the Calamity Devil God, far stronger than before." Chinmu did not respond. His command of demonic language was far more fluent now. He was truly dragging a devil god into the mortal world. The old Taoist makes his move. At last the old Taoist's expression changed. He swung the whisk. In an instant, each strand transformed into sword threads, dozens of zhang long, spinning like a colossal white feather fan. Each strand a sword, so fine it was nearly impossible to guard against. Boom! The whisk severed the descending stream of demonic power. The summoning was nearly interrupted. "Longban!" Dragon Qilin roared. The sound was like 10,000 thunderclaps. The whisk was thrown into disarray. The demonic power reconnected. The old Taoist sneered. "You beast following the demonic sect without repentance. If you serve as my mount for 100 years, I may cleanse your sins." "Beast!" Dragon Qilin erupted in fury. A blazing pillar shot forward. Boom! Behind the old Taoist manifested a tortoise-backed divine being over 10 zhang tall. One palm blocked the fire. Waves of flame surged outward, cliffs glowing red. Celestial being realm. Chinmu's heart sank. Duty and Devil King enters battle. Dragon Qilin charged forward. The whisk transformed into a white serpent, binding all 4 of his legs tightly. The old Taoist smiled, still refused to submit. At that moment, Chinma opened the Taoti pouch. Duty and Devil King leapt out, 8 arms wielding 8 treasures: ancient zither, pearl, bow and arrows, Buddhist relic, broken sword, demon subduing pestle, heavenly canopy tower. All were sect-guarding treasures from the Lulan Golden Palace. The Devil King thought to himself, "If I kill this brat, I'll be free. But the mechanisms inside this body may not give me the chance. Fine, kill the old Taoist first." The zither resounded. Demonic music surged. The old Taoist soul wavered. He hastily formed the purity seal to suppress heart demons. Behind him, the tortoise-backed divine being lifted the whisk. A tidal wave crashed down. Boom! Duty and Devil King was blasted away, embedded straight into the cliff. The white serpent opened its jaws, swallowing him into the mountain. The Devil King roared, "Little Taoist, you have no idea how terrifying the Dutian Lord is." He shook the heavenly canopy tower. The tower expanded to hundreds of thousands of zhang, crashing down. But the tortoise-backed divine being merely pressed one palm. The Devil King and the tower were forced flat against the ground, unable to move. Descent of the bare-headed great devil god. At that moment, the bloodlight and demonic power abruptly vanished. The bone altar trembled. 100 zhang tall, bare-headed devil god manifested. He roared, "Prepare to welcome Duty and bare-headed great devil god." Then paused. Duty and old dog. He saw Duty and Devil King pinned to the ground, burst into wild laughter. "Duty and Lord, you have fallen so low." He stepped on Duty and Devil King. "Summoner, what sacrifice do you offer me?" Chinmu pointed at the old Taoist. "Him." The bare-headed devil god threw a punch. Boom! The old Taoist was blasted across the valley, embedded in the opposite cliff. The bare-headed devil god leapt forward, fists raining down. Suddenly, a streak of swordlight pierced through his heart from behind. The blade emerged from his chest. The devil god sneered, "This is merely a devil god statue. Even cutting off my head is useless." Is it? The sword light circled his neck 3 times. His massive head fell. On the cliff stood a green-robed scholar, Lu Wenshu of the Li sect. He cupped his fists. This junior taking action against senior, is that improper? The bare-headed devil god picked up his head and reattached it. Another worm. The heavenly net complete, Qinma said calmly. Chung Fu too stands equal with me. Sending you is to belittle me. Lu Wenshu replied. My master is occupied with greater matters saving the realm. Assassinating the emperor, Qinmu asked coldly. Before he could respond, a white-robed Taoist nun appeared. Qingyu Sanren of Lingshu Palace. Then an Arhat descended. Puxian here to subdue demons. Then Luo Sanpo of the beggar sect laughed loudly. A demon-slaying assembly. Dry-leaf Taoist crawled from the cliff blood at his lips. For the righteous path. The celestial being realm masters shouted in unison. For the righteous path of the mortal world. 5 great masters attacked simultaneously. Divine being phantoms manifested. Heaven and earth trembled. Heavenly devil boundless. The bare-headed devil god roared, unleashing all remaining energy. Heavenly devil boundless. Qinma dragged Hu Linga behind Dragon Qilin. The valley shook. Rock crumbled into dust. Pressure like heaven and earth itself pressed down. The 5 great masters vomited blood and were thrown backward. The devil god stood towering. Hu Linga cheered. He's so strong. But cracks spread across his body. Energy depleted. Regretfully. No time to harvest the sacrifices. Boom. He exploded. His consciousness returned to Dutian. Smoke cleared. Coughing sounds echoed outside the valley. They were still alive. Hu Linga looked at Qinmu. Young master. It's fine. Qinma stood, brushed dust from his clothes, pulled Dutian Devil King up and threw him onto Dragon Qilin's back, stored the remaining 3 altars into the Taoti pouch. His eyes shone like stars. Longban, run. The pursuit was far from over.